They're looking for hope when they're on Change or Die, and Butterbean is a perfect example of that
Oh,
because
wow.
he was extremely limited physically from when you see him, and then when he's on Change or Die, it's a long process even for you to just think of ways to help him. I even saw you post some videos on your Instagram about it, his journey, and it is inspiring stuff when you see the end product later. But when he came on, like, how did you think like you were going to be able to help him, and were you hesitant at all to take him in?
Well, this whole thing started for Butterbean. I was on a show, this podcast show with my buddy Rick Bassman, and he had his other guest was Flex Wheeler, the bodybuilder, and Boss Rutan, the UFC friggin' Hall of Famer. So, and Butterbean. And they were all on it. And at some point, someone asked me, "So, what do you got coming up?" This is like 4 years ago. And I said, well, right now we're working, like we're putting together what would be the protocol for a show called Change or Die. And Butterbean's like, what's that? I was like, if you don't change your life, there's a good chance in the very near future you will die. And it will not be pretty. It'll be ugly and, painful. And at some point I said, we hadn't put the whole, you know, we hadn't put it together yet. It was just us brainstorming, me and my business partner, Steve Yu. And what's a really cool thing, so many people, put me over like, oh my God, the work you're doing God's work. It's so amazing. And I'm like, it's not just me. Like I say it all the time. I have an incredible crew. And the first guy is a guy named Steve Yu, who, if you watch The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, he's the guy that Jake almost punched out, because he was using again, and Steve called him on it. And I wasn't there. I was in Costa Rica at the time. But in this scenario here, watching Butterbean hunched over and walking with canes in his hands, he'd put them underneath his arms, but it hurt like hell. So a lot of time he'd put the crutches in front of him and walk like a crab. You know, when I first saw him, and we used this in the video, I said, "Man, how are we going to help him?" And my business partner, who's another guy who's super positive, he said, "But what if we can? What if?" And that's really, almost could say that's the signature line. Besides, it ain't your mama's yoga. It's, but what if we can? What if? And The Rock sent me, he sent me three videos, not videos, three voice messages on Instagram. And the first one was was around Butterbean. He put it over. He was watching the Butterbean video, and 2 minutes in, he says, I had to call you up and hit you up and say, man, what great work you're doing with the boys." And he understands because he runs a huge company. And you and your, what did he call them? Not crew, he called them, I can't remember the exact name that he called them, but he meant to say you and your guys, like the work you guys are putting in to help people and what you do with Butterbean. I'm only 2 minutes in this thing. It's mind-boggling. And he wanted to thank me because the guys who really care about the other guys like Rock, and it was very cool considering, I love the fact that Rock and Cena and Batista, I mean, these guys are top A+ actors, and Rock is still the biggest star in the world. At some point, he'll get knocked off that spot, but right now, he's still the biggest star in the world. And I love it because he's one of us. So Butterbean coming in, I I was talking to him on the podcast, and Flex Wheeler, I believe he's an Olympia champion in bodybuilding, said, "Oh man, DDP, if you're going to do a show like that, where you bring in like told him like 5 people I want to bring into my house, and we did film the resurrection of Jake the Snake, and he's like, oh man, you got to do that with Butterbean. What a story that would be, and that's how he got in. But he was sitting in a chair when he was doing the podcast, so I didn't see his limitations. I just thought he was big. I didn't know that he was in that much pain, like brutal pain.